this real? Several recent encounters suggest there might be more things in heaven and earth than we can dream of.
So are werewolves just a Hollywood creation, or do half-man, half-wolf creatures really exist? Now, tonight, we kick off our Conspiracy Theory Month series, which was a...
The legend of the vampire actually goes back for centuries, and it exists in some form or another in almost every culture. In fact, some people believe the first vampire story was in the Bible.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along.
Try and clear up an ancient mystery with the help of a prominent veterinarian who says she can prove that Bigfoot exists and that he's related to all of us.
New reports by pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Celestial Oddities Pair of Normal Guys podcast. I'm your host, Frater Crow.
I'm your co-host, Daniel James.
And as always, we want to thank you for your patronage and support for listening into tonight's episode. Make sure you click the like, share, and follow button on whatever platform you're listening to us from iTunes to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, Spreaker, CastBox, Amazon, or Google Play. We air across all platforms, so listen where you like to listen from. But by clicking those buttons, it does move us up the podcast community rankings, allows more people to discover the show, keeps you in the loop with new episodes as they air, and gives you unfiltered access to our past archives. If you are a lover of the paranormal and supernatural, we cover all subjects from interviews with great, names within the scenes of those realms to talk show subjects, and deep diving into specific content matter, as well as our episodes where we take on phone calls from listeners across the world to hear their experiences with the paranormal. So if you are new to the show, welcome. Now you have some feedback of what it is that we do here. If you are a return listener, we do want to thank you for your support. We bring you a show every other Thursday night, normally 8 to 9 p.m. Tonight is our first episode with the new time, which is 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. And folks, this is our second to last episode of this season, Season 2. Tonight we'll be going over some different exercises and topics and tips on how to touch deeper levels of self and kind of get in tune with, who you truly are, and some other great ideas and things that will help you in your everyday life and practice. And then next episode, 2 weeks from now, we'll take a set of listeners' calls to call in and tell us their experiences, and then we will wrap up for the season. But we do want to thank everyone for their support on Season 2. Make sure you go back and listen to any episodes that you haven't already checked out, and we would really appreciate it. So, Dan, I'm looking forward to, sharing with folks. I know a lot of people have asked us over time through our just random conversations, how do we get in touch with ourselves? How do we even get in touch with some of these paranormal things? Because I feel that a lot of people want to have these experiences, but they're so guarded and they're so, defensive without even realizing they're doing it, and blocking what could potentially be a great spiritual experience.
Yeah, I had the suggestion to do this show to give people some practical tools or an exercise that they can use in their day-to-day life to shift their reality, control their reality in a different way. And so I think that what we're going to give you guys tonight will be not only useful, but interesting and engaging, and something that you can actually put into practice.
I agree. And I mean, the thing I have happen a lot for me, Dan, and I certainly speak for myself, but I have a lot of people, whether it be via listeners of this show or one of my other radio shows, or it just be people that are followers of mine on social media throughout my occult teachings and postings, other involvements that I do, that will reach out to me a lot and want advice on how do I breach the great divide? How do I experience these things? And a lot of times I start to try to help folks, but I give them answers that they don't want to hear. And I'm going to tell you, folks, I'm going to do the same tonight. And that's okay. If you don't like it, I don't care, because if you want to know how to get there, sometimes you have to hear the hard truth. And the thing is it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work. And the problem is we live in an age now where people really don't want to work. They don't want to put any extra effort in than they possibly have to. And we go about our lives with this mindset. And it didn't always, wasn't always like that. It seems like in the last 15, 20 years, there has been this change where we always look for the easy way out of everything instead of working hard. And the reason I bring this up is people will say, well, I want to have experience with spirits. I want to have experiences with deeper level of self and have these amazing inner visions and, just wild out-of-body experiences, which are very, very obtainable by absolutely everyone. The biggest misconception is people think that only specific people were gifted these abilities. Some do have heightened sensibility, but everyone has the capabilities. The problem is some have to work harder than others to get there, but everyone still has to work or stay polished in it, or it will start to go away. I've given the analogy before that, when you were born, you're like a satellite dish receiving perfect, crystal clear picture. And over time, everyone that you meet and encounter, everything that you do, throws another handful of dirt on that satellite dish, slowly caking and crudding up the reception. So you have to do your own self-care and work to clean that dish back off in order to continue to get a heightened sense of reception or to have a very, very deep level of reception. So I wanted to kind of give that as a background behind it, and the reason I say that is, people think it's going to be, okay, well, I can go sit for an hour and meditate, and voila, there it is. And the problem is that that's far from the case. You're going to spend hundreds of hours in meditation, and if you are wanting to actually experience this and do this as a path in life and not just something that you have a quick one-off and then you never do it again, then it's going to be a practice that you have to do each and every day. It's going to become something like eating. It's going to become like showering or brushing your teeth. It becomes a part of your daily task and routine. It shouldn't be looked at this cool, weird, strange thing I'm doing. I'm meditating, or I'm doing ritual, or I'm doing whatever have you to tap into deeper levels. No, it should just be a part of who you are. And that's the first level that you have to get past as a seeker, is to drop the taboo of it. I encounter this a lot, folks, when it comes to ritual. People treat ritual like, and it should be treated seriously, absolutely, but people want to go about it like it's this crazy, like, ooh, I'm doing ritual tonight. Like, so what? It should become something that you do every day, every week, every month. It should become stitched into the fabric of who you are. And by doing that, you no longer look at it as this joke and look at it as this flashy thing. It becomes a part of you. And when you fully embrace and accept something like that, whether it be via ritual or through meditation, then it starts to really take hold. So that is what I wanted to get into first and foremost before we get into exercises, is it's going to take a lot of work. People expect to just jump in and wake up one morning. We talked about it last episode on Nights of the Nephilim, where people wake up in the morning, and just expect that today's the day that I'm going to become a guru. You don't wake up one morning, as my guest said, you don't just wake up one morning and become a lawyer. It takes a lot of practice and work. You don't just wake up one day and become a sorcerer. You don't just wake up one day and become a master meditator. And people expect that for some reason in this scene. It's become flashy. It's become this LARP fest, whether it be ritual or meditation. And I look at it like this. If you want to be the king of the ring, you better go to the fucking gym. And if you're not going to the gym, you're putting yourself in danger. If you walk into that octagon and you go up against the champion, and you haven't been running and doing your running exercises, if you haven't been hitting the heavy bag, if you haven't been eating properly, sleeping properly, and living properly, and you just willy-nilly walk into the ring with a champion who does this every day, you are going to get eaten alive, hurt, or possibly killed. And the same thing should be looked at when you go about your spiritualism or connection to self or other deities. You should look at it as, I take this seriously, it requires training and focus, and it will be, as I said, something you do every day. So with that all being said, I would like to jump into an exercise, and then after I'm done, Daniel will certainly pick up with some exercises he has for you also and give you some backstory too. One that I do, you know, and a lot of people say, well, I have a hard time getting past the monkey mind, you know, the monkey brain, where, you know, folks, if you're not familiar with the term, when you start to meditate, you'll feel like you're doing good at first. You start to blank everything out, and some people like to use the ball where they just focus on a ball, a red or a green or a yellow ball, and they just focus strictly on that ball and block everything else out in their mind except the vision of that ball, because it helps you focus on one thing, helping destroy the monkey mind. But most people fell in the fact that it comes invading back. All of a sudden you start to think of, well, shit, I left the coffee pot on, or, oh, I was supposed to call my mother last night, or all these weird thoughts that come in and interrupt your deep focus. So you have to work to get past that to ever really get any deeper levels of communication with your inner self. And I've done that through a extensive series of trainings. I, first and foremost, would say one of the biggest steps that you can do is you need to find a place away from everyone else in the family or home, your own special place, where you can be left alone for 15, 20, 30, 45, or even an hour. As you progress, you'll want to meditate even longer. You'll start out 5, 10 minutes is fine. As you progress, you'll eventually want to get to a point where you meditate for an hour or longer. Now, with doing so, I suggest keeping the lights out. I prefer to have a dark atmosphere. As you progress, you can start to light candles. Sometimes I'll light a candle in front of me, even though my eyes are closed. I like to have that in front of me. It adds a different type of energy. But as you're sitting in the darkness, you should sit in a sauna position. If you don't know what that is, look it up. And you want to straighten your back as straight as you can, chin down, head forward, legs crossed and folded in front of you, hands palm up on each of your knees, relaxed and comfortable. Close your eyes, and 4 count of breath in, hold for 4, 4 count out, hold for 4, 4 count in, and repeat over and over again. Now at first, that's actually going to take all of your focus. You're going to be like, well, damn it, I'm starting to try to beat the monkey mind, and Frater's got me focusing so hard on my breath I can't focus on not focusing. That's okay. It's going to take a couple weeks to get really used to this pattern, but you want to focus on sitting straight up and keeping that exact position. There's reasons being, because if you want to start to move energy centers, your chakras, and you want to start to move energy up your spine, and eventually some point hopefully reach the level of a Kundalini awakening, it's going to take quite some time, and you want to make sure you do it properly and don't have it happen overnight and ruin your life, because it can do that. You're going to want to sit that way, make sure you focus on that position and focus on the breathing. And after a week or 2, 3 weeks at most, you should be to a very comfortable position where you're no longer focusing on the breath. It's just a solid, easy rhythm. You're no longer focusing on the positioning and sitting. You're no longer focusing on thinking about those things. And you can get to the point where that breathing in itself will help eliminate monkey mind. Just a solid 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, no breath, hold for 4, 4 in, and so forth. Now, as you start to do this, one thing I have done is, if you've ever seen chestnuts or walnuts, they have that coating on the outside that it's like a spike ball, if you know what I'm talking about, Dan.
I do.
I got into the habit of actually keeping one in each one of my hands and squeezing it during meditation, and trying to focus my thoughts to the point where I wouldn't feel or think about the prickling in my hand. Now, a lot of people are like, what? But the reason doing this is, if you start to get into that comfortable position, get the rhythm of the breathing, and then start to do that to yourself, you will eventually get to a point where you're no longer thinking about them prickles, you're no longer thinking about what's in your hand, you're no longer thinking about your body or anything. Your body will vanish, and you just become what you are, which is a ever-present, omnipresent mind that is not restrained to physical body. So once you get past the level of holding that spike ball, you no longer have to use it anymore. But I do that for the reason of, and I say that for the reason of, if you can learn to get past that, then once you take that away, you can easily get into that deep level. So instead of working your way up from small to big, I believe in a case like this of going opposite and going from big to small, because you get past the sitting, the breathing, the holding that, and it trying to interrupt your thoughts. You work and you push day in and day out, hours and hours of meditation, and then you get to a point where that's no longer a problem, and then you just take it away. And then, like I said, you'll get to a point where you can close your eyes, get into position, start to do the breathing, and within 5 minutes, you are in a deep level of concentration. Now, here's the exercise. Imagine yourself, and if you need to use headphones, I suggest it. I'm actually a big advocate of putting headphones or earbuds in while meditating. I love to have different sounds, whether it be a guided meditation, whether it be, just calming, soothing tones or background music or noise, not actual regular music, but something like a meditation track, or binaural sounds of specific frequencies, which is a little bit more advanced, but I do suggest eventually getting there, meditating on specific frequencies and seeing the interactions and experiences you have. Now, I would suggest putting on a track of the ocean. And after you blank out your mind, at first don't focus on the ocean. Just breathe in, breathe out for some time to come. Focus on just being very comfortable. Each muscle from the tip of your toes to the tip of your nose, slowly just melting away and becoming relaxed. Becoming just peaceful. Just feeling so reserved and so at harmony. And once you start to really feel comfortable, focus on the sound. Focus on the sound of the wind and the seagulls. Focus on the sound of the crashing waves. This exercise is going to have you vision yourself standing in the ocean, about waist high, no one else around, just you. You don't have to worry about anybody coming upon you, stumbling upon you, and interrupting your time. Just you in the ocean, you in nature. Beautiful day. Not too hot, not too cool. Wind's just right. Ocean's looking wonderful and crystal clear. The sand's looking just pure, no trash, no dirtiness to it. Just the ideal scene of a beach. And you have it all to yourself. Now, as you're standing in the ocean and you're taking your breaths in and out, they're no longer really cognizant. You're not thinking of it. But as you're taking a breath in and out, you can feel the water just kind of bouncing on your stomach. You can feel the waves as the tide comes in and goes out. And after you get at harmony with this and you really get at peace with yourself with this, in and out of the waves, in and out of the breath, you start to notice as the waves come up and clap against you and then start to go back out to the ocean and then come back towards you and then go back out. Slowly, piece by piece, it's carrying fragments of you away, just small, tiny microscopic pieces of yourself, almost like you're dissolving in a sense. But you're not scared, you're not worried, you become at peace with this, as I said. And you just look around at the ocean, you look around at the scenery, the beautiful blue sky, and you just feel at this peace that you've never been at before, just a complete harmony. And as it slowly keeps coming and crashing into you and going back out to the ocean, more and more tiny little particles of you start to embed and become the ocean itself. But now you start to spread where you're not only intelligent in your own body, but the pieces that are moving away have thought as well. And they're mixing and becoming the ocean. So now you can feel, in a sense, you coming towards yourself, crashing into yourself, and then taking away more of self. You will repeat this over and over and over again for quite some time. Don't race it. Don't try to get to a quick end. Just let it be. And over a series of time, you'll eventually dissolve to a point where you're no longer there, or at least who you once visioned yourself being. And that's the point of this, is to defrag your mind into not believing it's the body, and because it shouldn't. You are not the body. You are not the mind. You are the soul and the spirit. And what will begin to happen is your awareness will leave the small vessel that it's in, even inside your own meditative state, and become part with the ocean and spread further and further out. If you can reach a deep enough level of self, you will lose all feeling of body, and you will lose all vision of body inside your own mind, and you become the ocean. And when this happens, something will happen to you. It can't quite be explained, but you will all of a sudden flip a switch that you've never known you have unless you've experienced it before, where, as I mentioned earlier, you become omnipresent, omnipotent, and you become everything. You're now embedded with the sand under the waves itself, the fish within the ocean, the seagulls landing on the ocean, the beach, and everything else around. And you start to notice you are the wind and the breeze, the trees, the sky. And you will feel like you've never felt before in your life. You will now notice that you are everywhere and everything all at once. And I promise you, folks, if you push hard enough and try day in and day out, this will happen to you. No, it won't happen overnight. If you're expecting to spend a week doing this and it doesn't happen and you're going to quit, then just don't do it. But if you're someone who's willing to wake up earlier in the morning, go into your office or go into your special place or space and just start to work at getting accustomed to just breathing and just sitting proper, because that's the problem. Is, like I said, folks say, oh, I got to spend a week or 2 weeks or a month on just focusing on how to sit. How many of us actually sit properly throughout the day? Very few. I actually bought a back brace where you can put around your back and pull the straps tight, and it'll straighten your spinal cord so that when you're sitting in a prana position or in a sauna position, you can sit properly with the chin down, legs crossed, and get into, a tantric meditative type pose and position, because that'll start to open the energy channels, the chakras. That'll start to open you, really allowing the energy to flow, because you can just lay in a ball on the floor and still have great meditative experiences if you push hard enough. But if you sit properly and you breathe properly, you are now opening the channels for things to happen more efficiently and effectively. And by following those steps and then starting to train yourself to do things like holding the spike ball to break your focus, but telling yourself, I will not be broken, and overcoming, and then taking them away, as I said, you will easily slip into a trance state. And then that's when you start experimenting with different vision quests, like the ocean scene. And I can tell you from personal experience, folks, if and when that moment that I speak of, that moment of transcendence happens, it won't happen each and every time. It'll happen every now and again. And what's fun about it is it won't happen when you want it to, and when you least expect it, it will. Sometimes you'll be on the beach, sometimes the waves are crashing, it's carrying you away, and then for some reason it just keeps crashing and you don't get there. And you end up coming back out of your meditative state and you're like, damn it, I didn't reach it. But every now and again you will reach that moment where you disappear. You've completely dissolved and you become everything. And when you wake up out of that, eventually, trance-like state, and you come back to the world, you ground yourself, and then you walk back out into the world, you will see the world differently. As the wind blows by you and touches your face, all of a sudden you have a newfound respect for the wind. You look across the street at the birds and the trees singing, and you have a newfound respect for them. And you are just now amazed at the world. And that's a gift in itself, to be able to re-find and rekindle the love you have for just being alive in this material world, but also knowing that you're much, much beyond the physical vessel. So that is one exercise that I have went into, and hopefully you guys enjoy. There are many. There's thousands of different walkthroughs that I could do, or even give a self-guided meditation to get you to that state. And something I've thought about before. But that gives you an idea of an exercise that I have done, I do, and use frequently, and have found absolutely stunning and amazing results. And I promise you, if you take it to heart and you work hard at it, you can have those results too. And it'll just open the bridge for many, many more experiences and many, many more things to come. Daniel?
Well, very cool, man. Frater and I didn't synchronize or orchestrate our exercises before the show. We just decided to come up with these and deliver them to you guys. And I'm always amazed by how similar Frater and I are, and how the similarities between his exercise and mine are, without us having planned that in any way, shape, or form. And the one thing that I want to say that I really enjoy about your exercise, because I'm sitting here going through it with the listeners as well, is it's accessible, guys. This is something that you can take action on right now, today, tonight, tomorrow morning, whenever you like to put time aside for self, being present. This is something that doesn't require anything outside of your self-awareness. He's giving you a guided meditation that would be a powerful tool that doesn't take anything other than your centeredness and a little bit of time out of your day and being willing to experiment and to explore yourself. And so I really like that. It's very accessible, that exercise.
Well, thank you. No, I think it's, like I said, it's something, as you said, it's accessible. Anyone can do it. Not everyone's going to do it easily, but everyone can do it. And that's the thing that I find so many people, they doubt themselves. And you can't doubt yourselves. It's okay to go in and be like, man, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. And having that attitude of making it to the top of the mountain, even though you know it's going to be a hell of a trek, is the right attitude. But if you go into it and you're like, I'm never going to experience any of these things, well, then you're probably not. And a lot of people say that, I don't know if I can reach that level. Well, then you probably won't, because you have to open your mind and let it be free. Your mind plays tricks on itself. It tries. The thing is, the material world is a beautiful thing. Even though it's only an illusion and a hologram, so to speak, or a matrix of sorts, it is a beautiful thing that there's a lot of things to enjoy and appreciate within this world. But with that appreciation also comes constraint of natural coded laws that make you try to not be able to discover yourself. The purpose is, if ascension was easy, folks, everyone would do it. And the fact is, very, very few reach the level of ascension that they don't have to come back to the training grounds. And if it was easy, as I said, everyone would do it. So no, if you want to have these experiences, you got to bust your ass. And it's going to be, like I said, like waking up and eating a bowl of cereal. That's your meditation. That's your ritual. And you got to push. Of course you're going to tell yourself, this is hard, this is no fun, this is work, this is more than I signed up for, I don't know if I can do it. But you can't listen to that voice, because that voice inside your head that you believe is you telling yourself that is the program. That is the code trying to break you from finding out who you really are. Dissolve it, just like you did in the exercise.
I can dig it, man. I've done a lot of these, man. Just like you described, I've done a lot of these, and they work. So I hope that you guys take action on these tonight. And it brings us into my exercise. And I was sitting here trying to decide what to teach you guys. Now, I know tens of 20 manifesting techniques or law of attraction exercises that you can do that are accessible and easy. But, we've heard a million of those, and people don't generally stick with them very long if they don't see immediate results, and that's a whole other story. So I wanted to come up with something else that is very attainable, very accessible, but has immediate results. And you can have an experience from this exercise your first time doing it. And so that's why I wanted to make something that wouldn't take too long to reap the benefits of it for those who can't make a lot of time in their daily or weekly schedule to have the type of discipline it takes to achieve these higher levels of consciousness. I wanted to make you like a quick get rich quick scheme, okay? And the reason why I'm saying it's a get rich quick scheme is because I've done this and it worked for me. And so here we go. This exercise is, if it works for you, it will trigger a psychotropic experience. Now, if you've ever done anything like, psilocybin mushrooms or dimethyltryptamine, maybe even a lot of marijuana or acid, anything like that that's a psychedelic, this experience doesn't involve any substances. Just takes a few minutes of your time, but it has very powerful effects, okay? First thing I need to talk about in regards to this exercise is the two items you're going to need, okay? You're going to need a mirror. Even the mirror in your bathroom will work just fine, or a body mirror, anything you have in your house, okay? The second thing you're going to need is a mask, and I'll get to that in a second. So one thing people don't realize about mirrors is they're not exactly just tools that reflect physical reality back to you. I actually see them more as portals. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, I don't actually believe in reflection in the way that we're taught that it works. Obviously, there are reflective surfaces, but whenever anything refracts light, it's bending light, and it turns from a 3D element to a 2D element. That's anything that's reflective, or a 2D or a 1D element. We're getting into shadows here. Those are not actually reflections of yourself, but you're actually looking into a parallel version of reality that is only different in the most minute way, that is only different enough to just be the exact opposite perspective of what you're looking at, and that's the only difference. And that's why when you look in the mirror and you see yourself and you put your arm up, it mimics it back to you, because the only difference of that parallel reality is the fact that it is looking at you and you are looking at it. So mirrors are powerful portals. Okay, they can see into other frequencies, other frequency bands, other realms, other dimensions, other densities. And so now that we understand that as part of the tool that we're going to use here, this exercise will create a very powerful reality-breaking sensation. Now, what I mean by that is that you are a 3D or a 4D physical being, but you are also a multidimensional being, in the sense that you have what's called as a higher mind or a higher self. You have other versions of yourself that exist in other frequencies, and we're always sending and receiving data to these alternate versions of ourselves. Well, many of these higher density or higher dimensional versions of ourselves are aware of us. We just aren't really aware of them. Okay? So what this exercise is designed to do is to actually help you turn your focus away from your congruent continuity. That's the key word in this whole exercise, is continuity. It takes you out of your physical linear continuity, out of your 3D identity, and it helps you make a direct link to your higher self, or your higher mind, or a greater multidimensional aspect of yourself that you're always connected to. You're just not aware of them, because you're only really generally focused on your 3D senses, your 3D reality. Okay? So the next part of this that I want to really teach you guys, it's important, is that when I talk about your identity, and I talk about the continuity of your 3D reality and your 3D senses, one of the main things, okay, that anchors your reference of yourself, like as in Daniel James, the reference of yourself to your 3D reality through your 3D senses, is your image. It's the understanding of what you look like and what you sound like in reference to the environment around you, to the people around you, to all of the atoms and molecules and subatomic particles around you that make up matter. The most anchoring continuity is your own appearance in reference to everything outside of yourself. So what does that mean? It means that you know what you look like. You know what to expect to see when you look in the mirror. You brush your teeth, or you do your hair, you're getting dressed. You know what your hair looks like, what your skin color looks like, what the color of your eyes are. The only thing that ever changes is maybe your complexion a little bit, maybe you have a zit, maybe your shirt is different, but you know what your physical appearance is, and there is a continuity that every time you look in the mirror, you can expect to see that version of you. And that identity That understanding of your physical appearance is a major component in what anchors you into your 3D space. It creates the continuity of your 3D reality that is focused in the 3D realm. Okay? So this exercise is going to actually break you out of the 3D linear complex of this reality and connect you to your higher self. And this experience can be really intense. It can be psychotropic, depending on your level of awareness and how long you stick with it. So I just want to give you guys that little disclaimer that it might be very subtle. It might be almost unbearable, almost to the point where you cannot even stand the sensation that you're feeling. Because that's how I felt when I first did it. It was almost worse than being on mushrooms or something like that. So here we go, guys. I mentioned earlier that you're going to need a mask, okay? This is really easy to get. You can get it today. If you have a Joann Fabrics, if you have a Michael's craft shop, they sell plain white male and female masks. That will work. If you go on eBay or your favorite online retailer, you order a plain white kabuki mask. There are male and female variants, or it doesn't need to be any gender. But what's important is that it's plain, okay? Get a plain white mask or a plain black mask that doesn't have any features. It's not like a Halloween mask or anything like that. It just needs to be as plain as possible, okay? You just go down to the store and get one of these in the craft section or order one online. Then it doesn't matter what time of the day. It doesn't matter if it's nighttime or in broad daylight. That doesn't matter. You want to put the mask on. You want to stand in front of your mirror. Okay? And you want to make sure that you can clearly see your eyes. That's the first step. So now you're wearing this plain white mask and you're looking at your eyes. You're gazing into yourself in the mirror. Okay? Well, remember what I said earlier about how the continuity of our own 3D appearance is a big part that anchors us into the continuity of our 3D reality? Well, when you put this mask on, you can still see your eyes looking back at yourself. But what you can't see is your face. You can only see your eyes. Now, a moment or two into this process, it's not going to feel like anything, because you know the continuity and the linearity of the 10 million times you've seen yourself in a reflective surface. You know what you look like in your memory. So you're looking at yourself, you're looking at your eyes, and you're going to want to wait. Now this can take 5 minutes, this can take 15 minutes, this can take 20 minutes. It will be different for every person based on their frequency and where they're at in their lives. For me, it took about 3 minutes. About 3 minutes after putting this mask on and looking at myself in the eyes in the mirror, I started to have a sensation. Because you can see your eyes, but you cannot see your face and your physical features, in your complexion, what happens is your brain, it starts to get confused. And you start to, and this is a key word, you're going to start to disassociate from your own 3D reality, because you're staring at yourself in the mirror. You can see your eyes, but you know what to be your face is gone. And you'll stop seeing the mask and you'll try to imagine what your face looks like, and you'll start to desync. You'll start to disassociate. And this disassociation is happening through chemicals, and maybe dimethyltryptamine is probably releasing as well, which is what happens when we dream. And your continuity of your physical appearance to your 3D reality as a reference point is now shattered. It's breaking. It's dissolving. And you're slipping out of your physical body, and you're slipping out of linear time, because the continuity of what you know to be your 3D reality is now broken. Because your eyes know to see your face, but it is not seeing your face. And it's actually like if you imagine second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, you imagine this linear process that you are so used to that it happens on autopilot. All of a sudden, a gear breaking and a wrench goes into the spokes, and now all of a sudden what you understand about reality is now shifting because you forget your identity for a moment because your brain chemicals take over. Okay? For those who need the science, your brain chemicals are, your wires are crossing because you're breaking a continuity here. Now, when I first did this, like I said, it took me about 3 minutes, but I've heard that it can take maybe 15 minutes for those who are patient. Here's what I'll tell you about my sensations. I started to feel this buzz in my body, started to vibrate. My frequency shot through the roof. And I started to get desperately uncomfortable because this psychomantium takes over, and I was having the sensation of not knowing who I was. Not knowing who Daniel James was in reference to my entire life because I was breaking that physical reality continuity. And then you're almost in like a trance state, similar to going into a trance or a hypnosis or a meditation. That's happening because your physical body is basically being overwhelmed with chemicals at this point. And you start basically hallucinating. Now I was basically slipping into like a channeling state, and I was connecting to my higher self, my higher mind, and the sensation was so intense I could feel that I was another aspect of myself in my body. Like the Daniel James continuity was gone. Like I slipped out of my body, and I was looking back at myself in the mirror and had absolutely no continuity of Daniel James anymore. But I had an awareness because I was still looking in the mirror, but Daniel James was not there. And it wasn't a negative feeling. It wasn't a bad feeling. It was just extremely foreign. So then I am staying with it, and I'm feeling overwhelmed by the sensation of feeling like I'm not my understanding of like physics was gone. Like I felt like time wasn't even moving. I closed my eyes. I stepped away from the mirror and I took the mask off, and I sat down and I took some deep breaths, and I just meditated for a minute, and it was a powerful experience, but it wasn't even the bang. Okay, so flash forward the next day. I'm an actor. So sometimes I'm on sets of TV shows or commercials or advertisements. Sometimes I'm producing my own things. Well, the next day I was a patron in a political advertisement that was shooting in Pittsburgh. And I was in a suit and tie, and it was a restaurant setting. And I had been on set for already about 2 hours. And there was a scene where we were supposed to be sitting down having dinner. And there was some political figure in the scene he was the lead actor. And I'm sitting there at a table with 3 other people. It's 2 women and a man. And I'm kind of like sitting there taking in the moment because I really like being on set. I love, film production. It's very exciting to me. And I was just enjoying it. I was getting paid and doing what I love. And I'm kind of like not really engaged with the conversation that's happening between the other people at my table. And I'd say there's like 5 other tables with like 3 to 4 people at them, and then a bunch of crew and camera and sound people. So there's maybe like, I don't know, 16, 17 people in the room easy. And relatively small room. It wasn't like a full restaurant. And I'm sitting there, and I kind of relax, and I look across the table at these 3 people who are talking to each other, having just banter in between takes, and I wasn't engaged. And as I'm watching these people, all of a sudden this sensation comes over me. And the people that I'm looking at across from me, they start to look like, and I don't mean physically, don't take this literally, but they start to look like robots. I don't mean like animatronic robots, but like a program. they start to look like software, like code. Now, I don't mean the code that's falling like in the Matrix, but I mean like I am looking at three people talking to each other, but I have this overwhelming sensation that they're not real. They're not actually in the room with me. And that everything that they were saying was totally arbitrary. It had no meaning, no value. It was just background noise that was designed to be there for the sake of my experiencing 3D reality, where there are people having conversations and people talking and laughing and caring about their tasks. But it was all very arbitrary. It really had no meaning or value. It was only there for my perception of it. And this feeling is coming over me now. And I look around the room, and everybody else starts to look the same way. I could see them sitting there talking, but it was like they weren't really there. And I get this overwhelming sensation that I'm actually the only person in the room now. And their voices get quieter, and the lighting gets more dim, and then I get this second sensation that I'm the only person on the whole planet. And everything just goes dead silent. It's almost like if you're on like a set and they dim the stage lights, you know, so the actors can scramble off stage and change and come back for the second act. It was kind of like that. Now it's dead quiet and it's dark, and I feel this sensation that I'm the only person on the planet, like the last man on Earth. And I start to panic. I'm having like some sort of panic attack here. And then I hear a voice. And I am a channeler, but I wasn't in the channeling state. Like I hadn't done any of my exercises to get into the channeling state to receive a consciousness and have a conversation. This is just happening to me as I'm sitting there at this table. This voice comes to me. And he says, so how do you feel about what's happening? And I said, well, I can barely take it. I can barely take this feeling that I'm the only person alive and that everybody around me are just programs there for the sake of my experience of them. And then the voice said, you're having a moment of this experience, but that's what it's like for me all the time. And I said, okay, I understand. I see what reality is like for you. And then he said, do you want to stay in this, or have you had enough? And I immediately said, without hesitation, I said, I've had enough. And then he actually said, he goes, okay. And right when he said, okay, the sensation lifted immediately. Now, if you're smoking weed or you're tripping on some psychedelics, that shit doesn't go away for 8 hours. This lifted immediately in a matter of seconds. The whole sensation, which felt so heavy and so foreign to me, was gone. And then I looked around the room, and everybody was still talking, and everybody was still going about their business, and some people were fucking eating the set food that they weren't supposed to eat. And the continuity came back to me. It all felt real again. The people actually felt like they were in the room. To me, they looked like real people. They looked like they had a soul in them. And I took a deep breath, and I stood up from the table, and I stepped outside in the hallway, and I said, what the fuck was that? And I knew right away that this was it was a taste, it was a touch into another realm where the physics are different, time moves differently. Maybe it doesn't even move forward or backwards. Maybe it doesn't move at all because it felt timeless. Like in this brief, maybe 20 seconds that I was talking to this being, it felt like it was like an hour had passed, but it had to have been 20, 30 seconds, so I slip out of linear time, and everybody around me now seems like they're just programs playing out actions that are totally arbitrary. And I knew that this was a result of my having done this mask exercise. Now, I've taught the other people who have done it, and their accounts of what they experience are slightly different than mine. But there is similarities in the sense where they have an out-of-body experience. Some people are describing astral projecting or almost slipping into like a remote viewing state. Some people have told me that they hear a higher consciousness that seems like it's outside of themselves communicating to them, giving them, some philosophical line that they need to hear, and then vanishing. So I'm not going to tell you guys this is a channeling state. I'm not going to tell you guys it's a trance. I'm not going to tell you that you're having an out-of-body experience. But what I am going to tell you is that this is a powerful psychotropic experience that you can have without the use of any substance whatsoever. I can tell you that I am still affected by that first experience that I had, which I did 5 years ago. Okay, this is 5 years ago that I experimented with this. And it has had a lasting impression on me. And every time I do it, I have these rebounding effects that come later. It's always like maybe later in the day or the next day, or I'll start having a succession of deja vus will trigger. So you guys are going to have different reactions and experiences to this. It seems to vary for everybody that does it. But if you're looking for some sort of cosmic out-of-body experience that doesn't require a substance, this mask exercise can work for you. And maybe it sounds scary. Maybe it freaked you out a little bit. Maybe you're like, fuck, I don't want to leave my body or trip out while I'm at the grocery store. But maybe you do. And I'm into this weird shit because I understand the impermanence and how temporary our 3D reality is. And I also understand that we experience time in a linear way, but it is not that way everywhere. There is other ways that time works, and I'm into these sort of metaphysical cosmic experiences. So that's why I've experimented with, plant medicine and psychedelics, and I no longer do. As a matter of fact, I don't do anything anymore. But I don't need to. When you learn powerful breathing techniques like Frater has taught us, and guided meditations that all they require is a little bit of self-discipline, a few minutes out of your day, and a little bit of exercising these muscles, that you guys can not only see reality different, but then learn how to better leverage it in your favor. So that's my exercise. I hope that it is interesting to you. Maybe it freaked you out a little bit. Maybe that's a good thing, okay? Because there's a lot to unpack and there's a lot to investigate and fear. And there you have it.
No, I love it. I mean, I agree that it's a great way of breaking your continuity. Yeah, you take what you believe to be real right now, and then you start to fragment it a little bit, and you see a tattering of the seams. And for a lot of people that is scary, and that's why I said a lot of people want the easy way, or a lot of people think they want it until they have it. It's like that famous saying I always go back to, that everybody wants to be king until they're handed the crown. It's the same type of feeling that everyone's like, oh yeah, I want to see spirits, or oh yeah, I want to work with demons or work with angels, or I want to tap into the unhidden potential within myself and find out who my true higher self is. These are all amazing things if done properly, if done truthfully. But if you race it or rush it, you can have, as I put up a post the other day, you can have a Kundalini awakening improperly. Even if you're training for it, you can have it and it not go the way you want it to. And it can not open your third eye chakra and you have just this amazing sense of godliness. For some people, it absolutely turns you inside out and ruins your life. And you can't handle it, and you have nightmares, and you are messed up from it. And a lot of people that happens because it opens before it was meant to, and you have to follow certain processes, and that's by taking it gradually and not trying to race it. And, as Dan said, sometimes you have to break it. So I mean, there's that fine line of not pushing the bar too high, but also not letting it push you back down. You have to find that equilibrium and balance that you find in anything. But for an exercise like this, it's what it's going to do, because you think you know who you are, but chances are you have no idea who you really are. So when you take away your own visual idea of yourself, when you take away those pieces and you look in the mirror and you still see the soul, you still see, they say the eyes are the gateway to the soul. Well, you're looking into your spirit and soul, but you don't see the body, the face.
Exactly.
And you take that away and you let yourself get to that hypnagogic trance-like state. Then you fragment that reality, and then you start to see beyond it. Now,
exactly.
Something I'll say is we had what the hell am I trying to say here? We had a person on the show last season. His name was Garrett Dawn, and he was from Croatia, and he does a process called the radical undoing process. And you can hire him as a teacher, and he will walk you through exercises and a program to pretty much undo the programming that you have done to yourself. Now, as a guest of the show, I was honored in the fact that he said, before I even come onto the show, I would like to talk to you an hour prior, walk you through it personally for free, and then go directly live on the air. And we talk about your experience. Now, I can tell you, folks, it was hard. Even someone who does meditation, I mean, he was having me do wild stretches, things that you normally don't even think of doing with your face, which is actually vital to do now that I've learned since then, a year or so ago. And these exercises not only had me feeling absolutely high on life during the episode, but once again, as I went outside afterwards, I was in a state of euphoria for hours, even to the next day. I mean, I was going to the grocery store, like singing and whistling tunes, walking by people just glowing. And it was because he undid so much personal brought tension from my life just from simple exercises that we don't think of. Now, here's one thing I'll throw out about that. When is the last time... Well, first, before I even say that, when's the last time you went through a thorough stretching of your body? You sat down, truly stretched and touched your toes, stretched your back, stretched your neck, did arm twirls, did a full stretching of your body. Some of you say, I do it every day, and that's great, but for most of us, we don't. We don't do that. Now, let's take it a step further. When is the last time you stretched and detensified your jaw and face muscles? And most people say, well, I never do that. Exactly, and what I learned from Garrett Dawn was that a lot, and I already knew this kind of to a sense, but not like this, a lot of tension is held within your face, within your jaw muscles. So he had me doing stretches with my jaw, very specific stretches of jaw and face and neck muscles, that once I was done doing it, my entire face and body felt different. My mind felt different. I thought different, because you don't realize that you are, or what you believe you are, is made up of the tension of all of the feelings, all of the crud of the day and the week and the month. And we don't take proper etiquette to cleanse that from ourselves and detensify. So something I would suggest, if you want to take this a step further, I can get you in contact with Garrett Dawn from the Radical Undoing process. Very nice guy, very serious about what it is he does. And he has an extensive program that I can tell you, I did 1 hour and it changed my life. He does a several week, if not, I think a month or two program where you would do live video sessions with him. You would have exercises to work through. And if you read the reviews on it, people that leave reviews say this absolutely changed my entire life. Like, I would not be able to ever go back to the way I was. It shatters your reality of who you think you are. So just something to think about. And as Daniel said, the funny thing is when you have a giant spiritual awakening, it can be not only rewarding, but it can also be terrifying and very saddening as well, because once you come into contact with your true higher self, once you break that illusion, you find out how absolutely alone you really are.
Right.
And it's a different type of aloneness than on a Saturday night. You're sitting home and you're not dating anybody and you don't have anybody there and you're just like, man, I'm in my own sorrow right now. I'm sad and alone. No, that's earthbound aloneness and what you believe is loneliness. When you shatter the reality and you become just the spirit, and you realize that everything around you is really just a sense, as we talked about before, a matrix or a program, and you realize that you are eternal, and you're this eternal mind in a never-ending game, you start to realize, wow, I am truly and utterly alone. And that is all I'll say on that. And some people will understand that who have experienced it. Other people say, I really don't quite get it, and that's okay. You will in time. But that's definitely where I would like to end this. And I would like to read a quote, because one of my favorite, authors of all time is Carlos Castaneda. And he's wrote several books about the adventures with Don Juan, where it was his spiritual teacher who helped him shatter his reality, or what he calls stopping the world. Mm-hmm. And within his practice and rituals and meditations, he stops the world and learns that, his inner God. And it talks about becoming alone. And in part of one of the books, they say to him, will you ever go back to where you're from? And he says, unfortunately, I'll never be able to go back there. And what he's saying is, after he awoke from his illusion, he can never truly go back there, because once you see behind the curtain, folks, there is no unseeing. And another great quote I'll read, and then Dan can finish us out for the evening, is from that book, which is Journey to Ixtan, which I suggest everyone in the world reading. Phenomenal book. It says, death is the only wise advisor that we have. Whenever you feel, as you always do, that everything is going wrong and you're about to be annihilated, turn to your death and ask if this is so. Your death will tell you that you're wrong, that nothing really matters outside of its touch. Your death will tell you, I haven't touched you yet. And some people will take that at face value and just be like, okay, that's cool. And other people will dig behind the true meaning of that, and it goes along with what we're talking about tonight, folks. So thank you so much for listening to our exercises and what we wanted to share with you tonight. I hope that you find growth in them. I hope that you find your own inner experiences. And I hope that this makes you want to be better, and that, waking up tomorrow or the next day, you begin your process. Wake up every morning a half an hour, 45 minutes earlier. You'll be tired for a while, but eventually you'll get accustomed to it. And then now you have that 45 minutes to start to really get to know yourself. And I'll tell you what, folks, getting to truly know yourself is an amazing thing. So thank you so much for listening. And Dan, go ahead and finish us out, brother.
Yeah, man. And also thank you for your thoughts there on the end.
Absolutely.
So, couple announcements. As Frater mentioned, we are doing a special call-in episode 2 weeks from tonight. Now, there are some people who are already lined up to be on the show, and what our goal is we want to have about 3 people do a 10 or a 15-minute story. But if this call-in thing really picks up traction, because right now I think 6 or 7 people want to be on the show. If it keeps picking up traction, I would be happy to do these on a more regular basis with you guys. So just email us at celestialoddities@gmail.com and get yourself on the waiting list. We pretty much don't turn anyone away, so it's just a matter of making sure our schedules are in alignment, and we'd be happy to have you on the show. Second announcement is I have been talking about my Halloween film, The Phantom Witch, for several months on the show, and it is released. It is free to watch on YouTube. It did come out in time for Halloween this year. So if you go to Tragic Hero Productions YouTube channel, it's The Phantom Witch, and it is free to watch. It's a 15-minute little Halloween film that my team shot 6 years ago. It's not like a super big budget, crazy thing. It's just fun little story, because I've always been passionate about lore and urban legends, and we've even talked about those on the show, and so we made one of our own. I've also posted that in our Facebook group, so if you are on Facebook, you can join Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys Facebook group, where the link is in there as well, and we will also be happy to engage with you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, we're always happy to chat. And other than that, we just want to thank you guys very much for listening to these 2 exercises. We hope that you experiment with them, explore yourself, be patient with yourself, exercise a little bit of interest in wanting to expand your consciousness, and these tools can be powerful stepping stones in that direction.
Absolutely. You said it well, brother. And folks, we will be airing our next episode and last episode of Season 2, which is the call-in episode, as Daniel mentioned, on the 18th at our new time, same as tonight, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time across all platforms. So make sure you tune in. And also the last 2 episodes of my other radio show, Knights of the Nephilim, is going to be on the 11th, is the second to last show, and the last show will be on, I believe, the 2nd. I haven't decided if I'm going to do one Thanksgiving Thanksgiving week, because normally on Thursdays, and I'm not going to do it on Thanksgiving. So most likely, I will have that final episode on December 2nd, and then once these seasons end, I will be picking back up with my other radio show, which is Uncovering the Underground, bringing on bands, rappers, models, porn stars, tattoo artists, oddity collectors, you name it. We bring on a lot of awesome personalities and interview and get to know who they are. So hopefully you guys are excited for that. And other than that, that is it for us for the night. We do want to thank you for tuning into Celestial Oddities Pair of Normal Guys podcast, and we will see you guys on the 18th. Have a wonderful night.